Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Fisher coming to you again with season 2 with Senior Resource Connectors. As many of you know, if you've been watching along, this series has been put together to feature members of our coalition who we think are some of the finest providers of home care, senior living, elder law, insurance services. So many families are touched by so many of our coalition members and all the resources that we represent. And so today I'm excited to have a conversation with my good friend Kimberly Mitchell. Kimberly is the owner with her husband Wes of the Home with Help Home Care Group. And in previous episodes, we've talked a little bit about the difference between home health and home care, and we're definitely talking about home care today. Kimberly, hello. Good to see you.
Hello. Nice to see you too.
It's good to be here. Hey, we're just gonna have some fun today and talk about lots of things. And Kimberly has been a coalition member since we launched 3 years ago. Can you believe it's been 3 years now?
Time flies when we're having fun.
Are we? Yeah.
Always.
It's amazing that when you start out on a journey like this, like we did 3 years ago, and we all were in alignment on the mission of it, we knew that we had to reach collectively as a group, the adult children primarily, that we all receive business in lots of ways, right? From various hospital discharge planners or case managers or attorneys or financial advisors. And I'm sure you get business from all those places and then some. But the challenge we saw was, my gosh, how do we reach the average 45 to 65-year-old that's got a mom that's starting to have issues? Maybe she's fallen a couple times. Maybe she's messing up her medicines, and you still got kids at home. Or you're like, what do I, how do I have these conversations? How do I address it? How do I get in to see her mom's doctor? Blah, blah, blah. And that was a lot of that conversation. If you remember the first night we talked, when we were having our organizational meeting, that we wanted to come up with some ways to reach those adult kids. And this podcast series or webcast series is one of those ways. Kimberly, do you remember that night?
I do very, very clearly. Well, I think for a lot of people, like they don't, we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of people aren't aware of all of the services that are even available.
Right.
Which is the whole point of Senior Resource Connectors, is to bring all of those resources together in one stop shop.
One stop. I was having a conversation this morning with one of the presidents or executive directors of one of the large foundations here in town that serves an aspect of the big healthcare. There's big healthcare systems around Phoenix, and they do fundraising all year round for one of them. And I was explaining what we do, and he's like, how are you going to climb that mountain of talking to all of those people who have parents, mostly parents who are aging? Stacy and I, as you know, are in the very throes of it. We have a daughter getting married in a week, and the week after the wedding, my mother-in-law's having hip replacement surgery, and so you talk about
the literal sandwich.
It's literally, we're in the sandwich generation, and how many of us are in that space? Thankfully, we own our own business, and I can respond to mom when she needs me, my mother and Stacy's mother. But how many people are working the 8 to 5, and it's way hard to deal with and way hard to get out, and they don't know where to go.
Yeah. Well, and I think for women in particular, there's a lot of, I know Stacy's going to talk to some of the HR departments, and I just had lunch with a lady the other day that she stopped managing in an agency and went off to be a realtor because she was missing so much work because she was trying to deal with stuff with her mom.
Right.
And it was, it's only so much time in the day, and job still needs to get done.
Yeah. And we still have to earn a living, because we're still right in the prime of our lives at this point, trying to do what we're doing. And that's right. We're one of our, I guess, main areas we're speaking to our employers and saying, hey, look, there's a lot of data. Blue Cross Blue Shield did a phenomenal study back in 20 or 21 about the number of dollars that are being lost in productivity Paid
Mm-hmm.
time off is being used to take care of mom and dad, not to go on vacation. And so if I
Mm-hmm.
don't get my vacation, I get really crispy. I imagine if you are in the throes of it all the time with your parents and you're not getting the right kind of rest or balance in your life, your benefits are being used to take care of family issues, and ultimately it's going to be lack of performance. What do you want to say? Distracted work
Sure.
production, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
I mean, and in their case, they lost what I believe to be a very good employee because she was, her, I think her youngest is like late teens or something,
Right.
she's still helping to support, and she's getting it both directions, and just got to do what you got to do.
One of our coalition members who also owns a home care agency like you um, was hit by this when her father's had an accelerated dementia, and then he had some additional issues that caused a more of a rapid decline, right? And her emotional response to it was because she knew nothing, nobody told her anything. The doctor didn't know what to tell her, didn't know how to get new powers of attorney so she could talk to the doctor on behalf of her dad, and didn't know how things were going to get paid for, and didn't know where to move to, and had to get things moved and get moving company. I mean, there's all this stuff, right, that goes into this. And her doctor didn't help her. And so she figured it out. And her response was, oh my God, other families are going to suffer. I'm going to buy a business. That's what she did to do what you do
Right.
in another part
uh,
of town. But she was like, families got to know, and I got to be there for them. And that was, the doorway into a whole new career for her.
well, I think that's the biggest challenge for most good information. It's like, how do we get it to all
Mm.
the people that need to have the information?
Right.
And I'm a huge proponent for advocates in any way, in any department, in any kind of conversation. But not everybody can afford to have one, because
Right.
that's obviously another cost.
Right.
And the ones that can, they're insanely helpful in so many ways.
Well, this is where connectors is stepping into the gap. This year, we've added our own family advocate at no charge to families. So when they call the office or reach out to us, or if you have a client in your world that needs more stuff, or from medical equipment to legal, whatever, they could call and talk to our advocate, no charge to the family, and then we'll help them put together an individualized game plan for themselves. So we have someone that comes right
Lovely.
to they come right to the family and either do it in person or over the phone or Zoom or whatever's the best for the family. But we know that we have to bring the resources to families, and we have to initiate the conversation. Even with HR directors, if you said, well, do you have any families that are struggling with these issues, that might have kids at home and still the adult child is also serving some role as a unpaid caregiver for the mom or dad? Unless there's a crisis, the HR office may not even know. And so we're literally even thinking through right now with some employers, how can we create sort of a needs assessment that your office would conduct with your employees, just to even identify where some of the hotspots might be that you don't even know about it yourself. You don't want to lose an employee because something's been going downhill and they haven't brought it to the table into the office. We would love to normalize the conversation and bring it forward so that those employees have a safe place, their HR office, and the HR office has got quick access to us for them. And so we can get them help in the house. If that's all they need is someone to be there 4 hours a day, I know the solution. Call Kimberly, call Debbie, call,
Yeah.
whatever. And so,
Yeah.
um, what was it about this business when you and Wes looked at it? You guys, how long you guys own the agency now? 11 years, 12 years,
We're 10 years.
10 years? What was it about the industry that attracted you guys? Why'd you do this?
Uh, so the shortest version, I I moved to Mexico when I was 23, and when I was 25, my great grandmother passed away at 103. Um, she was my first introduction to my grandparents getting her onto Altex.
Hmm.
And then her ultimately being in not such a fantastic nursing home type place. And then a few years later, my dad's dad had Parkinson's.
Hmm.
So it was coming up here, and you just seeing the decline, and them, trying to get help and finance part of it. And he eventually was on hospice. That was my first introduction to what hospice looked like.
Okay.
Um, then and my other grandfather had emphysema, and um, his wife was his main caregiver, like
Hmm.
forever, thick and thin, like the type that would, that even if it was detrimental to her own health.
Oh
So that
no.
was my first experience seeing that kind of side of it.
Right. Right.
Um, and then a couple of years before we were moving, I'm from here, but so once we were moving back here, um, I we went through a process to kind of find our strengths and our weaknesses, and interests, see what was going on in the
Hmm.
world, how many seniors were turning 65 every day, and all those kinds of statistics and whatnot. And just kind of put all the pieces together that made sense, that we don't have any medical or nursing or any kind of background.
Right.
So being in the non-medical field seemed to be the kind of the best fit. Um, and then it was, sometimes things just align and like fall into place. And we happened to be talking to a guy that was a business broker, and having the conversation, this exact conversation. And it's like, hey, I've got these couple guys that are kind of semi-retired ish, and they're like, the business is there, but we had 11 clients when we bought it.
Hmm.
Um, and they were doing, okay, but it wasn't their passion, and they were, wanting to get rid of it. And so it was, timing could not have been better.
Wow. It's one thing to be attracted into the space. So it makes all right sense. You've got some personal, what is that, inspiration from your family. You saw aging, what it looked like, the challenges it presented. You saw care can be pretty dicey at some facilities. There's good ones and there's not good ones. And I make a living
Hmm.
at my number one business, helping families find the right location, right? So we know that. But to be
Finding
attracted
the
to
good
this,
ones.
finding the good ones, and then the good ones move. Sometimes it's shifting sand in their world for sure. So, but then you see this as a business, right? It's a business opportunity, but then to start it or get involved, but then to watch it blow up and invest your heart and soul into it, you got to have your soul into what you're doing too, and your caregivers, and
Yeah.
you got to have caregivers that reflect you and your values and the company values. And because you've got a lot of agents that run around town on behalf of the Home with Help brand that have to be the right people in people's homes, right? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
big part of your world, is
Yeah.
keeping your mission alive and talking to them, right?
Sure. Yeah. Because we've got over 200 caregivers now.
And how many clients on service? You want to say?
About
Ballpark?
170-ish, if I
Better than
had to look it
10,
up.
better than 11.
Yeah. 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 Well, then we have private pay side and the outside side. So
That
there's,
you
combination of both.
you mentioned Altex. Let me just define that real quick. The Arizona long-term care services or system is the equivalent to our state Medicaid program, right? That's just the easy way to put it. The federal
Correct.
government adds money to the state, and the state uses that combined monies and that funds this program. And Altex provides long-term care benefits for people that need assisted living or skilled nursing long-term, and they also provide in-home care benefits for those beneficiaries that are choosing to stay at home, and Altex offsets some of that expense for them, right? Through, and your agency does private pay as well as this Altex program.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you have some people
Yeah.
that run out of money that need to get on the Altex program at some point and they get to keep you on board?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we have like a couple of the of our power partners that are like do the Altex planning and help them do all the paperwork and whatnot. Um, there's times that they will private pay for X amount of time just until the Altex planning is actually official or done, and then they can get onto those
You know,
services. So yeah, it happens.
yeah, we do the same thing with people that are going straight into assisted living. Same way. Sometimes there's some private pay spend down, they call it, but
Mm.
um, not everybody, not every home care company um, accepts or partners with the Altex program. Um, so I
Yeah, I
applaud you
think
for
there's only maybe like 50 of us
really.
agencies, I think, that do both private pay and Altex.
So I
Yeah.
applaud you for, and again, I think it's a reflection of your values that we're going to take care of people. Yes, it's a discount. Yes, it doesn't pay as well as the private pay side. Yes, there's some limitations to it, but we're still going to stand in the gap with people. And like I said, I applaud you and Wes for doing it and keeping that up and growing your business. The community needs it, right? It's not just about cherry picking the wealthiest in town to take care of.
Or yeah, yeah. Well, and like I mean, as you know, our industry, there's no oversight
Hmm.
really. I mean, so like our local international association, like there's certain requirements of you having to have insurance or them being W-2 employees, protect the client and that kind of thing. But um to really know that the agencies are really dotting all the i's and crossing all the t's and doing the trainings and the background checks and all the things that you want them to be doing. We get audited by the insurance companies that Altex pays, like they pay them and then insurance pays us, right?
Yeah.
um, and they could, they come in and look at various clients and caregivers, and we get audited and
Yeah.
like everything, and it's a complete pain and nightmare every year just because it's
It's
yeah, you
bureaucracy.
gotta
It's
really
oversight.
hit the yeah, but it's important, and it's good for the population to know that whether they choose us or they choose somebody else, get the help wherever you need to get it. But if they're contracted through them, then at least you're aware that they're doing all the things that they should be
They're
doing.
they're doing more in terms of that oversight. You guys, just so if you're watching this, just to understand something, the senior living and all the senior service industries that converge here, some of them are licensed, many are not. And so the home care industry Kimberly's talking about is not a licensed or regulated industry in Arizona. The placement industry, I'm a part of that. Options for Senior Living has operated for 21 years. We are not licensed. We have one law in the state that pertains to our world. The moving industry, if you thought that's a regulated, you'd be wrong. They're not. The care managers, they are not. The patient advocates, they are not. The senior move managers, they are not regulated. Many of us belong to national associations or our local state chapters of those associations so that we have best practices and we have some accountability to somebody other than ourselves. And that helps raise the stakes. All of us here at Connectors that are in those unlicensed spaces are part of some of those state and federal organizations. And we do that very intentionally because as we vet the companies that come to us, we have to be able to feel strongly that Kimberly's hiring her own people, their background checks, she's got insurance, and she has to do that to maintain her relationship with OSNAHA and the Home Care Association of America, right? That's all part of your,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's a vulnerable population, and I I appreciate Arizona for not being like crazy about regulations,
Right.
but a little bit more in dealing with the vulnerable population would probably be
Yeah.
good.
For the placement side, we're, as an organization, we're looking at some legislative intervention this year. And I've always said, I was the former president, I don't want to be licensed. And I think targeted legislation would make a heck of a lot of sense to protect people so that there's some very simple basics, insurance, fingerprinting, background checks. There's some simple, but
Sure.
in our worlds, you could just say you provide caregivers and nobody'd know the difference. And it
No
happens.
one's no one's checking.
No one's checking. So, um, That's an important aspect, an important feature I wanted to just make sure we touched on today. Um, what's next for you guys? Where are you going with your growth? How do you see the next year or two? I hear all the time people, they want to age in place. They want to stay home. I understand the reluctance to move out of their homes. They want to stay home, right? And so how do you do that with the caregiver crunch and all the stuff that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge before COVID. Um, COVID kind of, put it on steroids a bit. Um, I, unfortunately, the fit pay side, like people that have money, which
Hmm.
is usually the case in many respects, they just throw more money at the problem and they can, make the problem go away. And so on the private pay side, we don't struggle nearly as much as we do on the Altech side, simply because we can pay caregivers more on the private pay side than you can pay on the state side because of the reimbursement rates.
Sure.
Um, the one positive thing in Arizona, which not all the states do, some do, but that they allow family members. So they still become our W-2 employee. They still have to go through all the same training, all their certifications, all the things. They still have
Hmm.
to do everything the same as any other caregiver. There is a second level of a direct that a family member is not required to do by the state. But outside of that, they do everything just the same as anybody else. And then they can get paid for doing what they were likely doing for free already anyway.
Yeah,
And that's very helpful on
that's
the
really
Altec
cool.
side.
Do you do the
Not
training for the?
all of our clients have somebody in their family to help,
Yeah.
but a
But
lot do.
if they do, and do you do the training? Are you a caregiver training, or do you send them to
Yeah, they
training?
all like some of it's online and then they're in person. I outsource to other companies that
Gotcha.
have like big huge classrooms and whatever that do all those trainings in
They
there.
do that
Yeah.
training. Okay. Well, cool. Are you doing anything unique in terms of recruitment, incentivizing any of that stuff for caregivers? Um, if you are a family member and you care for someone and you'd like, this is something that is, hey, triggering with you, just want to highlight this real quick. Is there anything you're doing to let people know what you're doing or how they would get in touch with you, ask or even inquire about it, the program?
Um,
Or somebody in your
oh,
office?
like there's lots of things. So I have somebody that her full-time job is recruiting
Okay.
in various places. Um, we have sign-on bonuses and then there's various bonuses throughout the year.
Okay.
Um, I I think I think probably one of our biggest um, compliments that we get on a regular basis is it, the communication, regardless of whether it's with the caregiver or with the client or the family or the case managers with insurance. It's shocking that there's a lot of people that don't respond at all or
Yeah.
not in a timely manner, and just being on top of it and relatively quickly is everybody seems to always like that.
Yeah.
Since we're not a franchise, we rumor has it we pay more because I don't have loyalty fees to pay anybody, so we can give back to them.
Mhm.
Um, and then little things like sending birthday cards with gas cards and just little like telling them that they've done a good job.
Mm.
Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
like sometimes it's just very, very simple, just nice, human kindness in many sort of respects.
As far as my background's in nursing. I went to ASU's nursing school years ago, and so I've been around clinicians all of my career. We're all wired. There's one thing kind of common about us: show some appreciation. Let me know that
Right.
I'm valued, and we'll pretty much run caregivers, nurses. Those people will typically run through walls for they feel a certain loyalty and they will do whatever when they feel that certain level of appreciation and value,
Yeah.
especially from
Yeah.
the and just to again to your credit. Last week I was talking to a referral source. They really needed to talk to you guys quickly. I talked to your field liaison. I got a hold of Wes. You guys are actually out of town. I wasn't even thinking about it. And dude calls me like, and talks to me right away. And so I just, that kind of responsiveness, even if you are out of town for a few days, um, you're dedicated to your business, and that level of communication obviously is a core value for you guys. So thank you for that. Um, Anything else we should cover? This has been fun, just chatting it up. Um, oh,
Business wise, no, I'm like, we can
turn
talk
the
about
camera on and
traveling or we can talk about something else.
golly, we could talk for 3 hours and then turn the camera on and Kimberly, what I want to say. Um, your presence has been a huge value for all of us, and I'm grateful for your friendship, your commitment to the mission here. For our audience, we have a limited number of partners in each one of these areas, home care being one, elder law being another, and vice versa. And so from the very get-go, I wanted Kimberly and Wes and their business to be a part of us. You guys have been with us since literally day one, and so thank you for that. We're getting ready to turn the corner and start year 4, if you can believe that. And we have a lot of growing and a lot of communicating to do to the world this year. And so thank you for being a part of this and continuing to align with us. And if you are anything we've talked about today rings a bell, strikes a chord, Kimberly's contact information will be posted here on the video. You can reach the owners. Her and Wesley live right here, and so they're actively involved in their business. It's not turned over to a third party. They're right in the middle of it every day. And so their team is ready to respond if there's anything we can do. We're here, our advocate and our ambassador, ready to take your call and help guide you. If there's any questions that you might have, reach out to us as well. So Kimberly, thank you for joining us. Really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it. Tell
having
Wes
me.
hi for me. And thank you, audience, for joining. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care. Have a great afternoon.